Alrighty. We're back. Scrumptious versus Food Drive for Globe. It was an upset. I'm sure the title's probably going to give it away anyway of the video. Both drafts were pretty normalized and standard. You know, the Scrumptious draft is pretty, just solid. And then on the red team, Food Drive for Globe, you'll notice that Tegvir is once again on Susano ADC. Two things about this is that he's not going to bug reviews this game like he did in week 1 or week 2. But Warrior's Axe just did get buffed in the recent patch, alongside teleporters coming into the game, so you're able to be a bit more aggressive back and then teleport back to lane, so it's not too bad to play these off-meta ADC picks and off-meta duo lanes. So we see, quite early in the game, a nice little kill in mid lane onto Shinto. Now, Hecate really easy to kill pre-5. So the double stacking slow, really strong here from the Cuckoo and the Loki. Very good pick early game. One thing I wanted to give Food Drive credit for was that at the 8:30 mark, the Naga moved into their side of the jungle, and they were on it within 10 seconds, just able to claim that free resource, whilst they had pretty good info on where the jungler was, because he just ganked the solo lane, so it's not completely blind, but pretty strong. Okay, so this following passage of play is really nice, because what happens is there's an engage in duo lane with this diving duo lane, like aggressive duo, and Rongyu's forced into a position where he has to burp the Bacchus. It allows Susano to go into Jingwei, and a really easy pull into flop into ult from Bacchus, and Susano fall up too. There's not much that Zap could actually have done to live there, and that pick really forces this free Gold Fury because of Scrumptious already invading red side jungle. So it's not necessarily Food Drive doing this just because they got the pick on Zap, it's because they see that Scrumptious have already played for the right side of the map, so they have to play left side of the map, which is completely fine. But Scrumptious playing right side of the map was the correct play anyway. If Zap had died and then you see everyone go into the gold pit, you're probably going to run over to invade red and blue. Great play obviously from the experienced veterans of Scrumptious. Okay, look how fast this burst happens to Shinto. It's instant death off a Loki ult, Cuckoo ult combo. Will beads have changed that situation, or do you think shell is still viable to be mass purchased? I think into certain things, beads is still fine, guys. We don't need 5 shells. Okay, I really like this next passage of play. We see the Naga spawn on red side jungle, but it is mid-game. We are able to contest things as either side. We see an instant pull, pretty much, from the Kukulkan, which gets him poked quite a bit. You will notice he does lose about 1/5 of his HP, but Shinto loses half. At the end of the trade, you see that both mid laners are now kind of out of the fight and not in like the safest position. But look at the side of the blue team quickly snapping up the Naga and playing for super pressure. And something that facilitates this is the rotation from their ADC. It's really important that your ADC rotates to this, otherwise this wouldn't even be looked at, to be honest. The ADC is the only thing that can kind of clear the Naga. And it is insane that there is a massive team fight here. And what I want you to make sure that you're looking at, while there's so much clutter on your screen, is Haddix in the backline for the red team and Bacchus in the backline of the blue team. We'll notice that both people created so much space that nothing else was able to be traded. The only issue in my eyes, as an analytical approach to this, was that Globe was playing frontline as a Kukulkan instead of being able to punish the Mordred landing from his ult. Guys, we have to be treating Mordred ult as Smite 2 Naja ult. It's very strong. But Haddix did such a good enough job that he got multiple people low. Bacchus, not able to get people low. So the resource advantage is on the side of Scrumptious, and they use that resource advantage to get the Pyromancer. And then Globe once again trolls his positioning, I will say it, giving them even more of a gold lead. The Pyro was gone anyway, your team wasn't there. There was actually nothing that Globe could have done on the map, so it was fine for him to reset there, even if he couldn't buy anything. Okay, this play here by Haddix shows one of the fundamentals of MOBAs that I've talked about a couple times. It's the fundamental of pressure. So Haddix is using kill pressure and threat, of just pure damage, and he's ignoring priority. Like, he doesn't have prio here, he's fighting behind a wave, but he has enough pressure to be able to poke out Odin. But what's important is how you use pressure, right? Because Haddix could have used that pressure and then just continued to AFK farm that lane. Maybe he pushes this wave, he looks for backs, he does, a standard play. But he plans for the next wave and what Odin may do off that pressure. He knows that he's pressured Odin out, and he knows that there's gold up on the side of the map, and he saw Loki catch the wave and ride. So as he backs, he's planning to play to either match Odin coming to this Gold Fury, or maybe do a proactive play in left side to get priority or pressure once again for a Gold Fury pull. So it turns into Scrumptious having a lot more resources on the left side of the map, and Odin shows on the right hand side of the map as well, on that solo wave. That gives Scrumptious the green light to play for something. Now, Barkus doesn't have the beads active. He's got a very greedy build. So, Nog picks him up, and they just kind of go for a dive. However this plays out, it's not too necessarily important. But what is important, they played for the tower, which is fine. Not smoke break. Food Drive for Globe entered by contesting after the tower was dead. Scrumptious had already made their play with more members on the, like, that side of the map. And Red Team did the most bot thing that you can do, is rotate mega late to a losing situation. Right, Odin had already run right from being poked out by Haddix. That's the misplay, right? Karmic has already pathed to the wrong side of the map, and Loki had already farmed pretty much the right side of the map as well. This gave Scrumptious a free a free Gold Fury, which is completely fine. But what can Food Drive for Globe have done in that situation, right? We know that teleporters are now in the game, so they could have backed after losing their tier 1 tower, teleported to mid tier 1, or mid tier 1 tower, and contested the next play of Scrumptious, which would have been Gold Fury, right? But instead, they were stubborn. They contested the tier 1 tower that was already dead. They fought after the fact, and it turned into a disastrous situation. And this is where the game kind of opens up for Scrumptious. Alrighty, we start entering the Fire Giant stage of the game. And I think that Scrumptious's comp is so strong at Fire Giants due to Amir Waltz, and due to Mordred being able to pick, and due to Fenrir being able to pick, as well as that man probably being able to solo the FG. So Happen gets poked to 50, and in my opinion, that's the Fire Giant dance 1 for Scrumptious, okay? Watch here, they Amir wall, Odin has to jump away, another really big win. But Zapman's not staying on fire and they're playing to dive. Now, in my opinion, this is fine if you have really good discipline. And Scrumptious show here that they don't have the best discipline because they get the pick and they continue pressing forward instead of using this as a power play, right? This team fight is just completely chaotic. Zapman goes under tier 2 tower, everyone runs back because Loki's playing tempo, Loki's playing for time and to distract, which is perfect, and that's literally Steve doing Steve things, right? Many ways to play this fight insanely better. Amir wall with patience, completely fine to play with, right? Even if they've got 2 jumps, it's fine. You can dive, get a pick, and then be disciplined enough to come back and use that 5v4 presence to once again play with an Amir wall. There's a lot of different ways that Scrumptious could probably VOD review that fight and find an answer that they really agree with. But 100 times out of 100, the way they played that is not what they would rather do. Now it's Food Drive's turn to play for Fire Giant. The issue is that there's no ADC and Loki is in Narnia compared to his team. They need to play for a fight, and the only person walking up is the Amir. Now, Amir should be very happy to take a lot of resources and cooldowns, take his HP bar, honestly, even die for this, okay? He gets Odin Cage, I'd be happy dying as an Amir for an Odin Cage, Susanna Walt as well. And he doesn't die, he gets the TP out from Hecate, and the fight is already over due to the pick taking way too long. Even if Globe gets picks with his ult and Tegbeer gets a pick on Zap, whatever, it's already coffins due to every cooldown on the side of Food Drive being down when blue team are able to counter initiate. They've used every cooldown that they have on that Amir and he did not die. Really easy counter engage angle from blue team and they did it perfectly, right? Alrighty, just to give some context of what's happened. After FG, Scrumptious were able to get that right bird with just a bomb, Nagas, really easy siege phase, just due to Amir wall forcing an Odin Cage, Zap ulted away. But now after the Ancient Fury is dead and the fire is on Scrumptious, even if UI says it's not, I want to take a minute to look at how bad the positioning is for Food Drive. Because it's really easy, right, if you're in the situation as blue team, to end the game and win. But red team aren't anywhere where they're supposed to be, right? This massive, disgusting fiesta started because there were 3 people all the way up near the FG pit Karmic's like for some reason looking to fight and throw an axe at Fenrir. Like, it was just disgusting, right? The first really bad play, in my opinion, that Food Drive for Glove have done this game. And it was just them not being ready to defend or not being ready to be aggressive. They were all scattered at the ending phase of the game, and it's really, really obvious that Scrumptious are going to go for an end after Agent Fury, guys. Nothing can be done here. Even if Loki lived, and even if Tegvir was, you know, full build, Glass Cannon, Trans, Crusher, Jotuns, Heartseeker, Soul Reaver, Obshard, Titan's Bane, whatever, they still lose the game. There is no way to win that after that doomed positioning. But that is game one, and I think Food Driver actually looked pretty good. Okay, so we're into game two, and you'll notice that the drafts have been flipped around in the way that Scrumptious has the pressure/kill comp, where they just really want to play for skirmishes, play for picks, play for fights, whereas the other side, it's not LARPers, it is Globe's Food Drive, have a more traditional kind of comp with Jingwei just hyperscaling and Kukulkan there as like a objective, secure mage, plus, you know, really good at, should be good at dealing with dive. But this fight here, this shows kind of how like Morrigan comps kind of exist, where it's a Morrigan ult into another ult, and now you can start playing for objectives after your first little initial picks in the early game. Then more so as you transition to hyper late game, it's more team fight based. You have to win a team fight. It's the whole point of playing Morrigan, two really impactful ults. But you know, the pick into the Naga, into the Gold Fury, is kind of what makes this early game kind of good. And one thing is, this game will definitely be skipped through a lot, because game two, you won't believe it, Scrumptious have a pretty hard time doing objectives, and you'll see that they're unable to kind of just pull objectives late game, and that kind of creates this weird staring contest at Fire Giant, where they're waiting for red team to pull FG, but if the red team realize that Scrumptious can't pull the Fire Giant with this comp, they don't have the DPS, so it turns into a really long game. But we'll get to this. We'll get to that soon. This is a rare mid-game moment for Scrumptious, where their comp actually doesn't have to do exactly what I just had said it done, okay? This is where the fundamental of tempo can be shown, as well as information as well. So they have information that they're playing to defend their blue-red side jungle. They've sent 4 members over to red side to defend the ominous presence of the jungler, as well as Haddix on the Mordred. Mordred ults away pretty fast, to be honest. He could have just stayed there lingering for a little while longer, maybe created more time, but they didn't need any more time. As you'll see, Scrumptious pick up a free Gold Fury due to the presence of running over to the right side jungle, and then we see another great pick with the use of Morrigan ult. Okay, really, really nice play. Really good pump fake too. It's like we juke right and then we just hard commit left. Really, really cool play. We don't really see that too much in Smite. And I'll actually keep this running, because what happens is they interway their Gold Fury play. Like, they dive a tier 2 tower on a Kukulkan, they get cleaned up here by Tigver, and then it doesn't even just stop here. Really heads up play by Food Drive, okay? They rotate over towards the Pyromancer on spawn. We'll see, just like, Odin presence is great. He gets a Karte ult. Like, this is pretty stupid, I'm not gonna lie. He should just get out. The ult resource is a great burn. We see him shove mid, Haddix unable to answer, or they just know that Haddix isn't answering. Tigver continues the rotation. They pick up this Pyro. And this is where it's really uncharacteristic of Haddix. There's no pressure or priority on his team. He just goes in 1v4. Hecate doesn't have ult. He just gets instantly blown up, as he should. And then Scrumptious, honestly, for that passage of play, looked like a bronze team. Like, looked like a massive bronze team. It's quite odd. And continuing the theme of Scrumptious playing ridiculously bad, I need to first, outside of this little micro fight that happens here between Karmic on the Odin versus Nog on the Susano, look at the left side of the map for Scrumptious's jungle. Purple buff, speed buff, double back camp, there's that neutral mid camp spawning, gold's about to spawn also. So what do? We throw everything at Odin. Now Odin gets a kill in the cage, 1v2 essentially. Zapman for some reason is here. Zero reason, okay, for Zapman to be here at all. All of his jungle's up, okay? This allows Jingwei to rotate mega late. Happen, that's luck. I will give Happen some luck that his timing just matches perfectly, okay? But the ADC is already dead. They have a massive team fight win. And whoever called this rotation for Jingwei to come to fire at 16 minutes, or around the 1650 mark, incredibly heads up play. Now, I will, like, keep this going, like just the rest of this Fire Giant play. But just really, really heads up by Food Drive. Also, great zoning here. Mage Duty. If anyone's been coached by me, they know that I love my Mage Duty. If you're pulling Fire Giant, you need someone on the Mage Duty. Kill the Hecate, keep her out. Obviously, he can't do it too well, but he did it well enough that she doesn't get any value. Yeah, really good Fire Giant, really good, like, solo side play. Happen dying, doesn't matter at all. Perfect trade. Alrighty, we start the Fire Giant dancing with the first FG. And honestly, probably the best executed one of the game. We see Food Drive pull the FG really fast with 4 members on it and only 1 member zoning. Pretty good DPS schedule. Good for Odin Cage here as well. He uses Odin Cage in a really good way here, where he keeps them out, but Hecate ult comes out. And it kind of allows Scrumptious to engage. Now, what I don't understand is that Odin Cage to keep them out, and then after they secure FG, we don't see a mass exit. We see people kind of moving forward and things like that. Exactly what Scrumptious want Food Drive to do, to feel comfortable fighting them, right? That draft needs to fight. Needs to fight. Where red team has so many, like, ways to win that don't require a 5v5. You know what I mean? It does end up to be a really dire situation. And we'll talk more about how can red team actually win a game without a team fight. Very simply, because this bird's going to go down anyway, right? Karmic does do some saving grace here, but you'll see that the game doesn't end. By 4-1ing, you're eliminating a lot of what blue team wants to do, what Scrumptious wants to do. Another Odin Cage here, by the way. Great cooldown reduction buffs, and his build doesn't even have that much cooldown reduction in it. But yeah, 4-1ing is a great way for red team to not win the game, but negate Scrumptious's team comp, because they need 5 people to fight and just be super, super strong. You play 4 people kind of super safe. You have a Jingwei that's super safe. Cuckoo should be okay. And then you have Loki looking for Susano in a 1v1. And that will stalemate, essentially. So this chase is really good by Karmic, by the way. But it doesn't, it just allows more time to be ripped off their Fire Giant buff. But there is a stalemate condition with that 4-1 split that I was talking about, where if Haddix is the one to answer the Loki, there's no kill pressure there either. It turns into a really messy situation where once again it looks like you're just staring at each other. But great push all the way out. That's the thing I really wanted to talk about, is that Karmic pushed them all the way out. And then you're able to come back, sweep the jungle back towards your base. They get Pyro on the way out. It's a great, I used to call it the Chapo chase, but more on that later. Alrighty, so second FG, potentially of the game, and you'll notice that red team give a lot of respect to Scrumptious. They're all the way at their back camps, but Scrumptious aren't interested in pulling FG. Why? Because they have to fight. Once again, there's a zap in a cage, and it goes poorly. But Haddix gets a good ult. They use that Mordred Hecate combo once more. They are able to pick up like the entire team, and you might think here that I would be screaming, please go to fire, please go to fire. But no, their DPS stinks, right? Continue to dive, continue to fight, and really, really snowball this pressure. And I think a big thing with this is being okay with death, and not like in a metaphorical IRL sense, right? Being okay diving, dying for a death to get like this Jingwei dead or this Cuckoo dead is really, really important. Like, Wrong, you should be okay. I'm going in and I don't give a fuck if I die, as long as I do my job. He gets Jingwei, you know, Cuckoo, 1 HP, he dies. Everyone's happy to trade their lives for these kills. And then Karmic lives on like 80 health. This game was 80 health away from ending right here. Okay, so that play was really, really good by Scrumptious. It's just unlucky, right? A different power spike, a different minute of backing, and maybe a different build. Maybe if Karmic didn't have Yogi's necklace, my favorite item by the way, the game's over. Right, a deviation of build path kind of ruins that ending phase. You know, there's a million simulations and we're living in it. But because Odin doesn't die, Scrumptious stay around. I don't know why they stay around. Maybe just watch all of Odin's allies respawn. And Food Drive once again get a really good chase out. And remember, I called it the Chapo chase earlier because against Chapo's team, when we were an SEC team on, it was like, oh hey, it was really long ago in the minor leagues, like the 6th place team. When we would verse Chapo, we knew that he would chase us all the way to our tier 2 towers, even to our base. And we knew that if we got to our tier 2 tower and he continued to chase, the rest of his team might have given up and we can actually turn and kill them for over chasing. So yeah, just a little bit of history there. Just gonna watch this little passage of play to show the Loki versus Sano matchup. Sasano just goes in using both his 3 and his 1 to get in range to pull Valo. It means that he has no damaging ability, right? He's used his 1 as mobility. Valo's able to punish it really easily. Another thing is people love just ulting Susans as Loki, and I think it's really strong if the Susan doesn't have beads. Even if he does, you just kind of take him out of the fight if you play really Loki style. Just ult, do burst damage, and hopefully get out. Against a good Susan, I can see how it's a 50-50 matchup, but I just think in lower ranks and in your casual games, you should really be abusing Loki into Susano, not gonna lie. Alrighty, finally a little bit of a different fire giant. We see that Scrumptious are pulling it with their dive comp, with their PvP comp, right? And it doesn't get very low. It's still at 11k, and Karmic kind of goes in because he sees a big cage. Completely fair, but I think if there's no threat of a team doing FG, let the 2 tanks tank it. Okay, this fight develops, we pick Happen with a Kidnap, and Zap dies to a Corkanaut, which is whatever. It's a bit 1 for 1, both tanks are pretty low, it resets, it's done, right, the fight's over. But let Rongyu and Haddix tank that FG until the special attacks start coming out of fire, like the Meteor split attack or the Fire Wave or a big punch. It creates this weird dynamic where Fire Giant becomes your 6th member, right? Especially that Meteor split attack, it is very, very strong. Let people tank that shit, bro. Okay, this next passage of play, it started with Zapman backing, and he has to run back to the Fire Giant as Food Drive pick it up. Haddix is forced to step up to try to buy some time, but he takes a bit too much poke. And notice, Haddix actually tanks FG whilst he's ulting, and he gets Jingwei autoed too. You aren't damage immune during your Mordred ults, guys. Make sure you're pretty aware of that. As well as like aware of it into Mordred too. You can kill him as he's running away if you're lucky enough. But with Haddix going back, it's really weird that Scrumptious decide to go in. And Rongi goes in, he gets knocked up, he gets gargoyled as well whilst he's in the air, which is a really good pickup by Happen, which means Fenrir is unable to do anything. And you notice that Haddix didn't back, and he had super helper syndrome. Like everyone on blue team has helper syndrome. Now, I despise this next weird fight that's going on because it's so split. I don't understand why Food Drive didn't commit to the Fire Giant, and with that, keep Valo in the pit. Like, I don't understand why we're all running separate ways. Somehow Karmic gets 2v1'd at his own blue buff when you have Fire Giant priority, right? And it just turns into this massive shitfest, to be honest. Like, everyone's trying to help each other. Nog was dead, as good as dead, but Shinto walks up to try to help him in a 3v1. And you know what that means? Shinto then gets 3 people on top of him. Shinto actually gets hit by Glowbeam, which turns into like a pretty good ult. I won't show the Fire Giant dying because what happens is Food Drive get a free FG off that play. Pretty piss poor by Scrumptious. Okay, so we finally get to look at the siege phase of the game with Food Drive with Fire Giant. Now, I would say that Food Drive's comp should actually 4-1 split with Loki splitting due to Jingwei and Kukul Khan being so extremely safe. But we noticed that that's not the issue. Karmic steps up a tiny bit too far forward here, and no beads, and he didn't get abused like this the entire game. Right? He was able to run rampant, but he finally goes down, and I thought it was looking really bad here for Food Drive. Happen goes down as well. Mordred gets a pretty valuable ult. And you'll notice now, the misplay here for Scrumptious, running in 1 by 1, giving Loki some flanking angles, running into a Jingwei with good positioning, like you have to move forward into a crit ADC, never feels good. And then Loki able to play like a perfect flank angle. Like it's actually so insanely bad to any time ever fight outside of your bird range in this situation. Because if you fight outside of the bird range, you are so far away from your Titan that this play can happen all the time. And you'll say, oh, but we could wipe him, It's such a low percentage play that you ever wipe people there, you know? But game 2 goes to Food Drive after an insane Fire Giant dance period. Insanely long. Kind of painful. Not gonna lie. Pretty painful. Alright, going into game 3, we see that the drafts have swapped once again. Food Drive with a full pressure dive comp essentially. Want to fight 5v5. Can't really pull anything without fighting. And then on the other side we have a massive objective burn with an Anubis solo for Scrumptious. So when you are versing a mage, as you can see what Food Drive have done, they've invaded. Okay, this invade looks like it was so perfect, but it can be fixed, okay? It's really, really predictable and telegraphed. So when you invade red-blue, you watch the Loki path straight back to his red. Nog makes the great decision to do one set of backs and then trade speed for speed. This kind of mitigates the invade by one camp at least. So Loki gets red and blue. You know, they get their own red and blue. Nog does double backs. I actually misinterpreted it. But you'll see here, Nog goes speed. And then he will invade Loki's speed. And Loki will be late because obviously he had to clear 4 buffs rather than just 1. The way to mitigate this is that Tegveer and Happen could just pick that speed up in between waves. It will give them a lead. And honestly, in this draft, they do want a lead. And you might say the downside is that Loki doesn't get the speed. But the truth is, Loki should never get that speed anyway. So someone on his team has to secure it, and I think it's fine for Tegveer and Happen to do that. But really good start for Food Drive. Pressure in both side lanes, and it's just a super, super strong start. We skip forward to the first buff respawn, and we see that Happen solo invades purple side. Now what that does is it gives more information that the jungler actually wasn't there. They see the Chark is in the right side. And this is where it's kind of weird that Shinto gets pulled across to red-blue side. But guys, this is a Nuwa with no items. Absolutely useless god at this point in time. The Karte much more valuable due to AoE CC. And massive bait by like Scrumptious to try to defend that red buff, blue buff. What they could have done is just played for the next spawn. Like, you have to understand, your power spikes, especially around Nuwa, are gold focused. She scales with money, she scales with items, she doesn't really scale with levels. Anubis also not level 5 until right now, kind of makes the whole blue buff trade completely, like, impossible, to be honest. Or just, like, not a good idea ever. Alrighty. With Solar side being so focused, we finally start to see some action in this duo side. They have had pressure, but they finally find a pretty crucial kill onto Amir. So now, Food Drive have 2 winning side lanes with a pressure composition, and the only 2 people on the side of Scrumptious that you could say are really good early are Amir and are Anubis. And now they're kind of behind, so Food Drive have a really good aggressive start, and they've just played early game really, really well. Okay, so Food Drive with pressure are able to secure both sides of the jungle, which is completely fine, but you see that pressure does also help securing the neutrals in mid. Now this is what's really blown my mind here, that this play by Scrumptious is to force on Globe. Now, the buff's already gone, so Food Drive has already won, so Globe's only condition here is to live. Scrumptious, I don't understand why they look for that play. I can understand that they look for pressure onto Hecate, but there's nothing that they can actually do with that pressure. There's no farm up, so interesting play by Scrumptious. Alrighty, Food Drive, 1,000 gold up, probably getting ready for next buffs. But we see that Nog just kind of walks into the lane very lackadaisy-like, without really thinking, as Chark, and he's able to get, like, killed pretty easily. The Bluestone picks him up, right? Or the minions, actually. Actually, the minions pick him up. And then this duo lane is able to continue their pressure. Yes, they might not get a kill instantly, but you see Rongi does eventually fall down, the shell coming out for Happen as well. And another kill nearly comes out. There's something that I do want to touch on in the future for Zapman, that you will see how well Food Drive's duo lane has played this lane. But the big thing is, why is Scrumptious playing aggressive when all their jungle is about to spawn? they're going to lose stuff. And you also have to back, it turns into a Gold Fury. It's just really weird timing, and it's not even about timing. I think it's just about no critical thinking and not really planning anything that you're doing. They just look like they're on autopilot so far. And they just think that their mechanics and their experience might just be able to win them the game. But not looking too good for Scrumptious, but they do get a Naga. Not too bad there. They plan for something. That is good steps in the right direction, but it's off the back of a Gold Fury. This next minute of gameplay from Food Drive's Duo Lane is some of the most perfect, high-pressure, man lane-esque kind of stuff that I have seen. I think maybe in the history of Smite, because we don't really see too many man lanes, but they jump onto Zap as we see. Zap is forced out, and Zap just backs. Now, Rongyu does something that is so mind-blowing to me, is that he actually checks to see the timer for the purple buff. Or not for the purple buff, just for the neutral. So Rongyu gets picked for free. Even if Valo wasn't there, this play is really bad, just fundamentally. It doesn't always turn into a kill, like it has right there for Rongyu. But walking alone into the jungle against a double assassin lane, not very advisable. Pretty stupid. Fuck it. It's stupid. It's dumb as fuck. I don't know what he's doing. Okay, I'm trying to be too nice. It is dumb as fuck for a world champion to walk into that lane. But let's look back to Duo Lane. They go right on Zap again on the next fucking wave, right? He can't ult because he ulted just one wave earlier. So they are using pressure so well in this Duo Lane. And it's on the Nog to try to mitigate this, but his jungle pick is so bad at mitigating double assassin, and he's just trying to really trade the map, which is a fine play, but it's just leaving Duo Lane on an island. So we're just going to have a little quick sneak peek at solo, because we see that Anubis actually has priority to do Warhorn. Now this is not a theory, this is just a strategy that I thought of that should have been done a couple times. So it's on the same time that Zap dies, is that Anubis gets the Warhorn for his team, but is it really for his team? Because let's have a look at the next wave state. So we're back in lane, and we get to see the Warhorn freeze in action. So getting Warhorn for your team is sometimes really detrimental, because as we can see, Zapman's already really far behind. Tigveer kind of trolled by poking the wave right there with his 2. He can keep that Warhorn lane alive, shoving all of Food Drive minions under their own tower and mitigating all farm from Zapman and Rongyu. And it's a perfect timer for Gold Fury too, so it could have been so perfectly executed, even more so in Duo Lane. They still get a decent freeze off, but it could have been like at Food Drive's tower line, Zapman and Rongyu completely shut out for the next like 1.5 minutes. So just something to really highlight that we're not really seeing too much in Smite. But they're doing okay. You can see that the idea is there. The execution just needs a tiny bit more work. Alrighty. We finally get to see Food Drive make a mistake, and it's on the back of Karmic. And I'm pretty harsh on Karmic when I do watch Food Drive's games, because I do think he's like, I don't want to say he's the weak link, because it's not like there's a massive gap between him and everyone else on his team. It's just that solo kind of gets like more focus. But you see, he poked Zap, he altered Zap, and that's the misplay. He had already kept Zapman out of the fight. I don't understand why he went for a kill. When his team's doing Gold Fury, it makes Gold Fury like super risky right there. Like that could have gone either way. But if Karmic just poked Zap, came back to the fight, used his, not Soul Reaver, used his just massive frontline presence to not let Nuwa, not let Emir walk up to Gold Fury, it would have been great. And now, I know that if I don't leave this part of the clip in, there was going to be some like, oh, but actually, Tigveer solo Zap because Karmic got some resources. While, yes, it is because Karmic got resources, someone else needs to explain to me why Zapman is clearing a wave after Gold Fury has just died with no ult. Like, that is just fucking retarded by Zapman, I will say it. Okay, as the dust settles in this game, and Scrumptious finally kind of take a back foot, we see them look at Globe again. And I thought, the casters did mention this, but they are looking at Globe every time, and he does ult away every time, but I went back and I saw that it happens every 5 minutes they will attempt Globe. So it happens there at 6 minutes, it happens again at 11, and then it happens again at 16. Now that is nowhere near enough, okay? Globe is a win condition for Scrumptious. They're able to wall him off as Hecate, and like wall is what, a 13 seconds cooldown mid-game, 7 seconds cooldown if you've got some cooldown. Like, punish this Hecate more than once every 5 minutes. definitely something that you could have looked at as a way to play the game, especially with Scrumptious losing both side lanes. Nog and Amir had to be on that Hecate. Getting a ult once every 5 minutes, nowhere near enough. Get a ult, maybe go farm a back camp, come back to fucking mid lane, and punish her for having no mobility in her kit without it being on an ultimate cooldown. Okay, so we see Food Drive play this Gold Fury really well. So something that Happen does that's underrated here is that he jumps on the back line to try to divert them off DPS. They don't, which is really heads up play by Scrumptious, but they use everything on that Gold Fury, which allows Food Drive to fight after the gold. And with that comp, like I said, you know, a couple times now, Food Drive really want to fight all the time, all the time, all the time. And their lead allows them to fight all the time too. Now, Karmic did rotate to mid to shove, and they were probably thinking about tier 1 tower after that for Gold Fury. Karmic insta resets into a teleport, which is a really good addition to the game in my opinion. It allows for heaps more tempo plays. And Food Drive pick up fire. Now, as I was watching this live, I really thought this could be a pseudo throw by Food Drive if they continue to just try to 100 to 0 Fire Giant. But remember what their comp wants to fucking do. They want to fight, they want to fight, and they want to fight. And I was so happy that they did, right? Karmic goes in, gets a good pick onto Haddix. Haddix had to ult the Gold Fury, so he has no resource there. Nog actually not being able to find any useful anything as Jark. And as the Nagas were tanking FG the entire time whilst they were off FG. Really, really sick play by Food Drive. Yes, they pick up Pyro. It is what it is. But that whole passage from fighting Gold Fury to instantly resetting mid by Karmic to get to that Fire Giant fast was so sick. Really big fan of that. So after FG there was a couple bits of trading, like Zapman getting a picked and ult, and it is what it is. But we see Food Drive attempt to siege Doi lane and Karmic try to farm up the right hand side. Haddix does a sick play to blink in front of Karmic. But to be honest, if Karmic just ulted away, it might actually have been more beneficial for Scrumptious, because it takes them a lot of time to kill Karmic, which means it negates their back, not negates, it cancels out their option to even back in general. And then Food Drive are able to get a bird, and I honestly don't think that Food Drive's comp was able to get a bird into an Amir comp, into Nuar, and into Anubis. I think it was kind of a misplay there, because sieging is so difficult for Food Drive that Scrumptious played for a pick rather than defending their birds for a fake quote-unquote FG. I think if you get a really early Fire Giant, it's kind of not worth a bird. Like, let's say 22 minutes and before, if you lose a bird with someone who has an 18 to 22 minute Fire Giant or a 15 minute Fire Giant, God forbid, you have thrown completely. Now, this game gets really messy for the next couple minutes, and it's a lot of people getting picked. So Valor gets picked before FG, and then I'll show you what happens soon. So as you would think, you know, Scrumptious pick up the Fire Giant once they've got their pick, but the tanks of Food Drive are just way too strong. So Happen's able to go in and buy some tempo, buy some time, Karmic's able to go in, and he gets a pretty good pick onto Zapman, who has ulted away. So Zapman dies, it's a pick. Happen and Tegvir live on 1 HP, and Karmic goes in after killing Zap, so then he dies, and it's just another pick. It's just a lot of resources being used, and it's pretty sloppy, unfortunately, for Food Drive, but pretty fortunately for Scrumptious. I think that Fire Giant pull is really overzealous by Scrumptious. They are incredibly behind. Zap has 3 items on him. Like, they do no DPS to that FG, but they might have thought an Anubis comp is able to pull that shit pretty fast, which could be true, right? They could be right, but their data's off because their ADC is non-existent this game, and it's pretty important to have an ADC when it comes to these objectives. Alrighty, we're going to strap in for the final play. We see Haddix goes to 1v3 people at the Naga buff at 26 minutes. Really dumb play by Haddix. Needs to go take a breather after that one. And then we see that Happen. I was really worried that Happen would continue going because, oh, we got a pick, we can keep going, we can keep going. And I thought Food Drive are pretty inexperienced, and they all might think that, like, let's keep going, let's keep going. The real excitement kind of comms of like, let's pull fire, let's just do shit. But no. They have really good presence of mind to use the power play, right? They're a man up, they have resources, they have time. Haddix down for another 30 seconds now after the pick. So Globe backs, I think Karmic backed as well, and I think Valo wasn't even on the map when Haddix had died. So, they pick up the fire, and Scrumptious, I think, major misplay contesting this fire giant. Like, crazily misplay. Nog just gets one shot. Shinto gets picked up without beads because he has shell. Stop this shell bullshit into Fenrir comps, please, right? It's insane. And then Rongi just, Rongi just gets body blocked all the way to death. Now, Nagas stayed on FG. As you can see, like, as they come back to FG, it still only had 25 3k health. So they pick it up for free, and then now they're able to make the really aggressive play. You know, I think it's great that with this comp, they don't reset and try to go for a full siege phase. Scrumptious have 3 dead, and honestly, it's perfect timing for Food Drive to really make this aggressive call. This is the best shot you're going to get at ending, and honestly entering this Titan room, because once again, I thought their siege was really bad. Scrumptious should have given up that fire and defended their birds. They had like a chance to stay in the game, but I love how the preemptive beads comes out. I love how they all just get inside the Titan room and the game really quick. Insane game, early game. Food Drive, it fell off a bit at the 21 to 26 mark, but like,
my goodness, man.
to play that well for 21 minutes is really, 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 really cool to see, especially with an unconventional comp. And I think pressure could be the name of their game. You know, keep workshopping comps that allow you to play like that, winning both side lanes. Let Globe be the tower boy or whatever it is. Really, really cool to play. Really, really cool to see, not play. My bad.